Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Fong. Today I'll be talking about the topic of skin anatomy. This is a very important topic, especially for aesthetic practitioners, because our day-to-day practice, whether you are doing laser treatments for pigmentations, for skin rejuvenation, or whether you are doing the injectables like fillers, Botox injections, it is very essential to understand the basic anatomy of the skin. Let us get started. Skin is the largest organ of our body, and it is mainly consists of three main layers: epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis, also known as a subcutaneous layer. So the outermost layer is epidermis. So we look at the epidermis. If we subdivide it into two subwords, epi and dermis. Epi means above, dermis means the dermal layer. So above the dermis. So epidermis is the outermost layer of our skin that acts as a mechanical protection against the external environment. So epidermis can be subdivided into 5 small layers: Stratum Basale, Stratum Spinosum, Stratum Granulosum, Stratum Lucidum, and lastly Stratum Corneum. Stratum Corneum is the outermost layer of the epidermis. So we start with the Stratum Basale. Stratum Basale is the lowermost, the innermost layer of the epidermis. It consists of a single cell layer, cell usually round shape or column shape, which is attached to the basement membrane. So basement membrane is a layer that separates the dermis from epidermis. So this layer of cells, we call it as a basal cells. They continually dividing and producing new cells and push the older cells to the superficial, to the surface of our skin, and eventually get shed off. So stratum basale. And other than basal cells, the other types of cells that resides in this layer is melanocyte. So melanocyte is a mother cell of melanin. They produce melanin, and melanin responsible for our skin color. So moving upward, the second layer will be stratum spinosum. So what is so special about stratum spinosum? This layer, the second layer of epidermis, consists of 8 to 10 cell layers. Some people call this layer as a prickle cell layer because it consists of irregular polyhedral cells, and some people call them as a spiny layer because of the cells is surrounded with a lot of spiny projections interconnected with other cells that form supporting structures for the epidermis, preventing tearing and blistering of the skin. So stratum spinosum is the single most important layer of epidermis that is responsible for the strength. They give strength for the epidermis layer. So moving upward, the third layer, stratum granulosum. So stratum granulosum consists of 3 to 5 cells layer, and the typical characteristic of this layer, the cell contain granules, and there are two types of granules: keratohyalin granules and lamellar granules. So these granules contain the keratin precursor. Then eventually this keratin precursor aggregate, they cross-link and they form bundles, and they push up to the upper layers and they become keratinized dead cells later on. And granulosomes, at this layer, the cell begin to die. They begin to lose their nucleus and their cytoplasmic organelle, and once they push upwards and they lost the nucleus and the cytoplasmic organelles, they slowly become a dead cell. And moving upwards is the stratum lucidum. What is so special about this layer? Not every part of our skin have this layer. So stratum lucidum is only present in thicker skin area like our palm and sole. So it means that the thinner skin areas, other parts of our skin, they only have 4 stratums layer of epidermis. So they don't have lucidums at the normal thinner skin area. So lucidum in Latin word means clear layer. So under microscope, it appears to be a translucent layer. The cells consist of eladin, which is a transformation product from keratohyalin. So this layer consists of few layers of dead cells, and it is responsible for the thickness of the skin at the thicker skin area like palm and sole, which is the transformations of the keratohyalins. And as it moves upwards, form stratum corneum. Stratum corneum is flattened. It's a few layers of flattened and keratinized dead cells. And because of the keratin is a waterproof substance. It prevents, it protects, it forms a mechanical protection for our skin, and it's a waterproof properties. It prevents water loss. So this outermost layers is the mechanical protection for our epidermis, for our entire skin structures. And moving to the second layer of our skin, dermis. Dermis is a connective tissue layer that sandwich between epidermis and hypodermis. So dermis play a very important role in humans' bodies because dermis form a supporting structures for our skin. Dermis is a fibrous structure that mainly consists of collagen, elastin, and extracellular components. So extracellular components like nerve endings, vasculature, glands like sweat glands and sebaceous glands, and also hair follicles. So this dermis can be subdivided into 2 layers. The upper layer is papillary dermis, and the lower lower layer is the reticular dermis. So what is different between papillary dermis and reticular dermis? Papillary dermis mainly consists of loose connective tissue and it is highly vascularized. And the shapes of this papillary dermis is like finger-like projections that integrate, that forms a lot of folding into the epidermis. The purpose of the folding is to form a strong connection between epidermis and dermis. The more fold it has, the stronger connection between epidermis and dermis. So the reticular dermis is mainly consists of dense connective tissue, and this is the place that form the bulk, the entire thickness of the dermis. So papillary dermis is thinner, but reticular dermis is thicker, and it forms the bulk. The majority of the thickness of the dermis is formed by the reticular dermis. And this is the place where we have a lot of like nerve endings, hair follicles, sweat glands, sebaceous gland, and also vasculatures. And other than that, dermis also have a few types of cells. The main cell is fibroblast. Fibroblast is the mother cells of collagens, mainly produce collagens. This collagen responsible for 70 to 80% of the entire dermis. So fibroblast is the mother cells that produce collagen. And second cell is a mast cell. When our skin having injury, it will stimulate the mast cell to produce histamine. And other than that, there is also other types of cells like macrophage and phagocytes, which is responsible for the phagocytosis of our immune protections of our skin. So when there's pathogens or infections, the macrophage will play a very important role in protecting our bodies from the infection. It is very important to know the difference between thin skin and thick skin. So thick skin refer to the skin like palms and soles. These areas is exposed to more frictions and they have a higher risk of potential mechanical damage. So their skin structures is different from other parts of the skin, the thinner skin area. So what are the difference between these two, thin skin and thick skin? There are three main differences. One, the thick skin, they have stratum lucidum. They have an extra layer of stratum because of they are having a higher risk of the mechanical damage. So stratum lucidum play a very important role in increase the thickness of the epidermis at the thicker skin area like palm and sole, so to prevent the frictions and the potential damage. And number two, thick skin area, they don't have sebaceous glands and hair follicles. Number three, for the stratum granulosum, thick skin area, they have 4 to 5 layers of stratum granulosum, whereas the thin skin area, they only have a single cell layers of stratum granulosum. And it is also very important to know the basic function of our skin. So number one, skin acts as a mechanical protections against the external environment. It prevents the invasion of microorganisms, and it prevents the chemical damage, and it also acts as a waterproof like barriers against the external environment. So it helps to regulate the water balance, prevent the water loss. And number two, the skin gives us the sensations of pain, temperature, heart pressure. And number three, skin play a very important role in endocrine function. So it initiates the biochemical process, vitamin D metabolism, and it play a very important role in calcium absorption and also bone metabolism. Number four, skin play a very important role in exocrine function because our skin secretes sebum and also secretes the sweats. So it helps to regulate the secretion of the water, urea, and ammonia. And other than that, skin also play an important role in immunity, so to protect our bodies from the invasion of pathogens and also to help regulate the temperature.